You know, of all the tools that you use in the shop, the one that you use the most is not your saw or your sander, it's your tape measure. Every project, everything you cut, everything you start, starts with an accurate measurement. Today on Woodworking with Wes, we're going to talk about tape measure basics. There are lots of marks on a tape measure. Each one of them indicates an information that you need to know in order to make accurate measurements. Let's decipher all those little marks. I've drawn out two pieces of a tape measure. This is a 1 foot mark, and we're going to come back to that in a minute. Up here, I have a 1 inch, enlarged 1 inch measurement on a tape measure. I have my lines all drawn out, and you'll notice the lines are different lengths. Those different lengths help you when you are measuring because each one of those different lengths are a division, a fraction of an inch. This shorter mark right here is a 1/16 of an inch. Each one of those is a 1/16 of an inch all the way across. The next one is an 1/8 of an inch. The next one, the longer, is a 1/4 of an inch and then a 1/2. But we'll go through those each one. Let's start off with a 1/16 of an inch. There are 16 spaces indicated on your inch by these marks right here. So each one of these is going to be a 1/16 fraction. So the first one here is going to be 1/16. Two more spaces is going to be 3. So 1, 2, 3. This is going to be 3/16. Now, this line in here is also going to be a 1/16 of an inch. It would be 2/16 of an inch. And we're going to come back to that in just a minute because we never write down a numerator that can be divided. You'll notice that as we work our way across here, every one of our numerators, the numerator is the top number, denominator is the bottom number. Each one of our numerators is going to be a number that can't be divided by 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this will be 5/16, 6, 7, 7/16, and so on the rest of the way to 1 inch. When we start going to our other measurements in between, again, our lines are a little different. And so these are the eighths. So 1/16 and 1/16 is 1/8, and there are 8 of these larger spaces per inch. So if we have 1/16, 2/16, 2/16 can be divided by 2, giving us 1/8. As we move across, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. 4/8 would be a 1/2, but we have 3/8 here. So 1, 2, 3, and we would have 3/8 here. Again, our top number, our numerator, has to be a number that can't be divided by 2. So any number that can be divided by 2, we have to break that fraction down. Same right here. Okay, we've got 1/8, and 1/8 is 2/8. 2/8 can be divided by 2, giving us 1/4. And there are 4 quarters to an inch. So as you would measure something, if you measured something that was 5 4/16 of an inch long, it would actually be 5 1/4 inch because you would break down your fraction as you measure. We'll talk about that when we get down here, but you can see that each one of these measurements, each numerator, is a number that can't be divided by any other number. So it's a single numbers. Okay, so let's go here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4/8. 4/8 can be divided by 2, giving us 2/4 or 1/2 if you divide it all the way out. So then you start to see that as you measure, each one of these lines tells you where you are in your measurement. Now let's go back down here to our 1 foot that we have here. Now this indicates a foot. Your tape measure will have a dark arrow at each foot indicator. And then you'll have the lines in between that will go all the way through for each individual inch. And then you'll have your little lines that I've indicated here. This is what you'll see in between each of your inches that will break down to your eighths and quarters of an inch. So let's say you were going to measure something that was going to be 16 and 3/8 of an inch long. So you would measure your 16 and you would bring your measurement out here and you would be able to tell that you had 16 and 3/8 because your measurement would line up to that. Also, as you get into some of these measurements, as you learn to do this better and you learn to add and subtract, when you get to this end out here, you start to count backwards a little bit. If something is 3/16 of an inch less than the full inch, you don't have to count each one of your 16ths. You just subtracted the 3/16. So whatever your measurement is now such and 13/16. And it gets easier that way. Or 3/4 if it's a quarter less. 1/8 of an inch less is 7/8 of an inch. So you get to be easy because you can subtract from this end and you begin to know your measurements real quick. Just remember though, the length of your mark is the distance between and how much spacing is for each inch. So the little marks are 16ths, the little larger marks are 1/8, the next line is 1/4 inch, and then of course 1/2 in the middle. And if your long lines are your 1 inch line, and your 1 inch line will always go all the way through. Okay, let's measure a couple of boards and make sure that we know how to do this. All right. Oh, by the way, this little tab at the end, you'll notice that it moves a little bit. On the inside measurement, you push in it and it moves in. On an outside measurement, it pulls out, giving you a more accurate measurement. However, if you want to make sure that you've got a real accurate measurement, you start at your 1 inch line and come out and measure, and that's called burning an inch. Always when you want your best accurate measurement, burn an inch. Okay, let's measure this way. All right, we have 5 and 3/4 because we have 1, 2, 3 of our 1/4 inch marks, and we're 1/4 of an inch back from our 6 inch mark. So it's easy to determine this is 5 and 3/4 of an inch. Let's measure it the other way and see what we got. All right, 13 inches long. We know we're 13 inches long. Okay, our 1/8 inch mark is the closest one here to the end, and we're only 1 back from 14. We know there's 8 of those 1/8 inch marks, so we are 13 and 7/8 for the length of our board here. Very easy to calculate real quick when you measure back and subtract. All right, let's take another board. Let's measure the width of this one. This one is 7 and 3/8 wide because 1, 2, 3 of our 1/8 marks, and it's just a shade over. You can say that's 7 and 3/8 plus. If you wanted to get real accurate about it, it's actually a 32nd of an inch, but a 32nd of an inch, we don't use that in the cabinet shop very often because that's so tiny you can't cut to a 32nd accurately. So it's 7 and 3/8 heavy. Let's measure the length of our board here. All right, okay. Right exactly 17 inches. That's an easy one across this one because we know we're right exactly on our 17-inch mark. All of our tape measures are going to be nice bold print like this, and you'll be able to figure your measurements real quick as you learn to do your fractions. Remember, this is the most important tool in the shop. You need to learn how to use it quickly and accurately, and we'll see you next time on Woodworking with Wes.